digital currency? Where do you see it going in the next 10, 20 years?
I mean, I think the amazing thing is no one knows. And it can emerge, and every person that comes into the ecosystem, whether they be a developer or someone who uses it, can change its direction in small and large ways. And that's what I think it should be, because that's what the internet has shown is possible. A global currency, which a native currency for the internet is a proxy for, is a very powerful concept. And I don't think any one person on this planet truly understands the ramifications of that. I think there's a lot of positives to it. There's some negatives as well. I think the bigger ramification is how it affects how society works. And I think there are many positive ramifications
Outside of just
that.
money.
Outside of just money. The lack of easy ways to pay people makes starting anything really difficult.
There's no coincidence that Bitcoin was created right around the same time as the 2008 financial crisis. It's not like these were just unrelated events. They're highly correlated to each other, okay? I'd say perhaps even causal. Go figure. And everything we've done as an industry from that moment to today and beyond has been about that endless, relentless desire to make things a little bit less corrupt, a little bit less nepotistic, and a bit more open. I absolutely believe the direction and course of this industry is to make things more honest and fair. And also, by its very existence, it exposes double standards, hypocrisy, and corruption. Just the fact that it's there. Because it's one thing to say that, well, it just can't be because of the nature of global finance. There's no way to do it otherwise. It's another thing to see it there as an example and say, well, that thing is doing it. Why can't you guys be this way? So capitalism as an engine is okay. The problem is it's misparameterized.
Right.
The cryptocurrency space is the only economic system where that's actually possible. You can create a tokenomics scheme where doing things that are beneficial for people you'll never meet because you're long dead actually makes you money today. You can't do that in a legacy financial system. And so the first countries to adopt that are going to be just significantly better places to live.
What's the future of Bitcoin? What's the future of Ethereum?
I think with Bitcoin, there is a certain conception of non-governmental fiat money that Bitcoin is really the first creator of. The way that governments have stopped that in the past is if anyone tries to make another fiat currency in their country, they immediately shut it down. Bitcoin is really, due to its decentralized nature, the first true non-governmental fiat currency. Governments have a very clear set of steps for directing the public's conception of their fiat, right? They say our fiat is worth this for these reasons. Bitcoin doesn't have that. Bitcoin doesn't have an official Bitcoin spokesperson that goes out and says, the non-governmental money called Bitcoin, the non-governmental fiat money called Bitcoin has value on the basis of this, and this. Right. Here's our fiscal budget. Here's our future plans. Our money will continue to be safe and secure and reliable. And so it's what that hole creates is a hole that we all fill, right? We all basically come to some vague kind of group understanding that Bitcoin is worth this, possibly due to inflation, and everybody says, this is nice, but I'd like to keep 10-20% of my wealth in non-governmental fiat, just in case.
So where do you think we're headed in terms of the role of currency, the structure, type of currency in the world?
I definitely expect fiat currencies to continue to exist and continue to be strong, and I definitely expect kind of fiat currencies to also digitize in their own way over the next couple of decades.
What's fiat currency, by the way?
Just like things like US dollars and like dollars and euros and yen and these other things.
And they're sort of backed by governments.
Yes. But I also expect if cryptocurrencies to play this kind of important role in just making sure that people always have an alternative if fiat currencies start breaking. So like if you're in some kind of very high inflation place like Venezuela, for example, or if your country just kind of gets cut off because of like something the banks do, like if there's even like some major trade disruption or something worse happens, then like cryptocurrencies are the sort of thing that just because of their kind of global neutrality, they're just kind of always there and you can keep using them?
Science evolves via negativa, meaning that we're not proving hypotheses, and that's what becomes the body of science. Science is whatever is left over as we disprove hypotheses, right? Whatever we can empirically, through experimentation, disprove gets discarded, and whatever remains, whatever theory remains that hasn't been disproven is science, effectively. This process is similar to market actors zeroing in on a store value, right? They're experimenting with different forms of storing wealth across time. Some do better than others, and eventually everyone ends up on the one that is best. That's what gold was. In terms of understanding Bitcoin, I look at it as a similar approach. Bitcoin is an idea. I think a government ban would be largely unenforceable, frankly, on Bitcoin. Being that it's pure information, right? You can now protect your monetary property in Bitcoin at orders of magnitude less cost than is necessary to run a banking network. Open source networks are going to eat closed source networks. So what Bitcoin would be in that lens is the ultimate open source monetary network devouring closed source central bank monetary networks.
Do I think Bitcoin can be more culturally and economically salient than gold in 2 decades' time? 100%. Banks and Visa are already using Bitcoin. So Visa adopted Bitcoin, right? PayPal adopted Bitcoin. Square adopted Bitcoin. I think it's a great reserve asset. It's a very powerful asset to build a financial system on top of, because it's highly, highly auditable. It's something that you can take physical delivery of very cheaply. And those are great qualities. If you're a depositor in a bank, they can prove to you how much Bitcoin they have. And you can easily conduct a run on the bank. You can hold them accountable because you can withdraw it. Because, making a Bitcoin transaction is pretty easy at the end of the day.
If you don't like Bitcoiners, if you think Bitcoiners are toxic, wait till you meet fiaters, The fiat community has financed world wars and genocides and tyrants and the mass death and destruction. The fiat community, if you want to use that term, I don't believe that you should, but fiat has destroyed the savings of pretty much anybody who's lived through the last 20th century. And Bitcoin offers us a way out of this.
Yeah, so I always go first to, we don't need to have competition, like in terms of like a direct competition between the dollar and Bitcoin. The reason why somebody buys gold is because it's a store of value, right? Historically, that's a narrative-driven type asset, though. Right? We tell people it's scarce. We tell people that it is a store of value. People are drastically underestimating the shift that's underway right now. Gold is down in value since August of 2020. You then look at central banks around the world who have been very large holders of gold for a long time and net buyers on a monthly basis. For multiple months over the last 6 months, they've been net sellers. It appears is on the decline. And so if that happens, you're going to get the contraction of a $10 trillion asset. Well, where does all that value go? And what you're seeing is at the same time that asset is contracting, you're also seeing a massive influx from not only retail investors, not only kind of the wealthy and the elite, but also from financial institutions, corporations, pension funds, etc., into this kind of digital sound money.
So you're saying that there's a kind of shift from gold to Bitcoin because they have a lot of the same properties, except one is in the physical space, the other in the digital space.
If you line up the gold community and the Bitcoin community next to each other, they'll agree on all the problems that they see in the world, right?
Yeah.
They'll actually agree on the solution that sound money is the solution. Where they differentiate is the gold community believes that it's the analog application of sound money, right? The physical gold, that is the solution. The Bitcoin community believes the digital application of sound money, Bitcoin.
Can you define sound money, by the way?
Sound money is just outside the system and no one can create more of it. So nobody controls it.
This is scarcity is fundamental.
Exactly.
What's the role of Bitcoin?
I mean, Bitcoin's a universal trust protocol, right? A universal energy protocol, if you will. English is one. Okay. What I see is a bunch of fragmentation of applications. For example, the Russian payment app is not going to work in Ukraine.
Right.
The Ukraine payment app is not going to work in Russia. The U.S. payment apps won't work either of those places. Different local economies where people spin up their own applications compliant with their own local law. So Bitcoin is a language, so you learn to speak Bitcoin or you learn to speak Lightning, and then you tap into that network in whatever manner you can. I think the entire crypto economy is very embryonic, and the human race's adoption of it is embryonic. We're like 1-2% down that adoption curve. I think that we're probably going to be 36 months of software development at the point that every Android phone and every iPhone has a Bitcoin wallet or a crypto wallet in it of sorts.
Bitcoin will eat the world. So what's your sense of the positives and the negatives of that?
So I feel people are smart, and it's going to be very hard for anybody and
to win.
Bitcoin to win. And because people want more and more things.
Yeah.
There is an Italian saying that goes, the appetite grows while eating. Okay? I think you understand what it means.
Yes.
And when you find something like Bitcoin, which I already had very good things to say, but it does something very well, but is static.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, store of value, yes. I think it's a great, for the rest, it would be a sad world if the world in which we are so anchoring down, so defensive, that we want to store value and hide it under the mattress. I long for a world in which it is open, people want to transact, interact with each way, innovation that is intrinsic to the human nature. We want always different things.
So you believe that intelligent life is ultimately about adaptability.
Yes.
And evolving. So static loses in the end.
Yes.